Adon Olam Asher Allah Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra, Master of the universe who reigns before all ever existed. B'yado Afkid Ruchi Be'et Ishan Ve'ayra. Into God I hand and commit my soul, my spirit when I sleep, and I wake up, and with my spirit, my body, Adonai is with me. I will not fear. The magnificent poetry of Adon Olam is truly a hymn of praise to God, who is supreme, omnipotent, eternal, and infinite, the creator of all, sovereign and guarantor, protector, comfort, and strength, who was, who is, who will be, without beginning and without an end. Its authorship is not known for sure. It's attributed to Shlomo ibn Gavirol, 1021, 1058, but the antiquity of the quality of the poetry deals us and tells us that it's written even earlier and contributed to Harav Chai Gaon and even to Yochanan ben Zakkai. Most familiar hymn of the liturgy, of the entire range of liturgy. My friends, the one that you just sang was the one that accompanied our people throughout the 19th century. Adon Olam Asher by Eliezer Mordechai Gerovich. If you didn't know the name, now you know it. So, I have a long lecture, of course, for an hour, but we'll make sure that you listen more than you hear me speak. So, we're going to start with a very simple Shira B'Tzibur, congregational tune, which you may not have heard before, but it's very catchy, by Gershon Kingsley, just to set the mood. In the Siddur of the Ashkenazic German, we have 12 strophes. In the Sephardic community, we have only 10 strophes of this thing. The setting of Adon Olam ranges from sophisticated art music written for cantor choir accompaniment or without accompaniment, accessible unison melodies that are meant for congregational singing and are used mainly for closing hymns, sometimes with Yigdal and sometimes this. But for this presentation, I've chosen the finest among numerous examples of a variety of styles covering the wide gamut of the musical expressions of the eternal religious poem, Adon Olam. I have grouped them in three categories. The first one is historical and regional. The second one is congregational and rhythmic, unison, upbeat, and stylistic, accessible and friendly. And the most important one is the art form, which we never hear here because we only close the poem with the closing hymn. So, the art form expresses deeply the essence and the profound meaning of the text so that you listeners can understand and enjoy the flavor of each group. So, we're starting with the 16th century by Salomone Rossi. In fact, I saw on the, you put it, Rabbi Spansky put this beautiful Sinai, which we probably will do in the high holidays. Salomone Rossi lived between, or we know that he was around 1587 and 1628. He was a very prolific composer, invented the trio sonata. He was beloved by the Duke of Mantua, and there's a whole history about him. I want you to listen to it. Go to Rabbi Google, and you will find out more about him and about everybody else. Adon Olam by Salomone Rossi. By the way, we only do the first verse and maybe the last one. This Kingsley is written for a service called Nashira B'Yachad. We sing together. The entire service, Kingsley, my friend, who's now 94, is still composing. He made a lot of money with this one, the popcorn. So, Adon Olam by Rossi. Rossi was beloved by the Duke of Mantua and by the entire community. He was not supposed to wear the yellow badge or the special hat that the Jews wore on this. He disappeared about 1623, and there's a whole story about where he ended. Nobody knows where he's buried. The next piece is a Spanish-Portuguese melody, which is very, very lovely and known. We sang it many years ago here. This lilting soft melody was composed by David Aaron di Sola, 1796 to 1860, Sephardic learned Chazan of the Bevis Mark Synagogue in London. The composition is worldwide known and sung in many Ashkenazic synagogues. We sang it here, you may recognize it. The Jews of Amsterdam, of the Netherlands, Adon Olam from Amsterdam, actually I received it from a friend of mine who is descent from a family for that, in the 18th century was considered the most beautiful, incredible, creative Jewish community. The Sephardic Jews of Amsterdam were known as the first modern Jews because they were the first people to distinguish the difference between religious and secular spheres of individual and collective lives. There's a whole repertoire in a pre-classical and Rococo style, which we, with our Lachan choir, maybe performed it a good number of years ago, Baroque and beyond. And we used ancient instruments. Lindy is going to sing the solo in the last. It's just we start this time with the last verse. Beyado afkid ruchi. Don't be shy. How are you? Normally I conduct and sing and do it at the same time, but she's a good helper. Beyado afkid ruchi. Sing another one. The next piece in this category, and it's the last one, is a beautiful, beautiful melody which comes from the little island of Jerba. There's a whole. If you want to hear this lecture, by the way, you can come on Shavuot night to the Tikkun down at the JCC. There are like 10 pages of things that I put together, but for you today just to listen to this beautiful. This melody actually I sang right at the very year, the first year that I was here, 1979. I had a whole full of hair then. But it's a beautiful arrangement of Ben Steinberg. Jerba is a little island, and it is believed that the first settlers in this island of Jerba, which is of Egypt and by Tunisia, that the first people that settled there were the Kohanim that came from the destruction of the first temple. In fact, the Midrash, the legend says that they carried a door and a stone from the temple in Jerusalem. There's a whole lot about they called the first Arab Jews. There were 5,000 or so by 48. Then it dwindled to about 700, but because of tourism now, and the government is very supportive, it's a beautiful, beautiful duet that Ben Steinberg arranged, and Susan is going to play with us the flute, and Nadia is going to play this beautiful, beautiful rendition.
Adon Olam Hashem Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra V'yitnasa B'chetza Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikah V'harei Elot HaKol Levado Yimloch Enora Vehu Haya Vehu Hove Vehu Yeh V'tzivara.
So, I had to cut, if you see my folded pages, because I want to go to the next section. This is the section now with, I'm not even looking at my notes, because I must speak much better off the cuff. The next category is really the congregational singing, congregational tunes that we use for closing hymns. And here, I don't want to sing them all for you, but they are written by Ami Aloni, by Gershon Kingsley, by Uzi Hitman, by Saul Zim, many, many other popular songs that you know, and we won't go to it. But the finest of all, we never did hear. And it is by Meir Finkelstein. Vivacious, friendly, fun, easy, joyful, sophisticated musically, with a luscious accompaniment, makes this rendition one of the most celebrated closing hymns in worship experience. A simple tune, you see, can have the musical sophistication as the most complicated piece of music. Meir Finkelstein is one, if not the most prolific and talented composer of our era. His musical style, Finkelstein, is influenced greatly by British musical training, because he finished the Royal Academy, and is a good friend of mine, of ours actually, because here I wrote down, what do we sing of Finkelstein here? Misheberach. Misheberach Avotenu, not the one that we sang today, but Misheberach Avotenu, Abraham, Avinu Shebashamayim, Avinu Shebashamayim, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Unetana Tokef on the high holidays, God, Unetana Tokef, and Uberosh Hashanah, Berosh Hashanah, Yikatehevun, and on and on and on. Finkelstein really is the most celebrated composer of our time. I must say that I have another friend who is one of the greatest, is Stephen Glass, who has been contributing to us, and not even to say about Nadia's husband, Yefim, who enriched our musical life at Holy Blossom for many, many years, and for many, hopefully, years to come as an emeritus. Adon Olam by Finkelstein, okay? I promise you we'll sing this in the future, but now goes to the most complicated piece of my presentation, which I hope it's also not only a pleasure to listen, but also to learn. So, no, she'll come back again. Here we have the highest form of the most honest attempt to express the magnificent, deep, and profound meaning of the text. With every measure of these few examples, one can feel the depth and the religiosity and understanding of the glory of the words of the poem. First example is from Austria, in a romantic, glorious style of Sulzer, who, by the way, was Shema Yisrael. Okay? It's not the traditional Shema Yisrael, it's only 150 years old. The next one is a triumphant explosion and an upbeat fanfare by the American composer Max Halfman. I will say a few words about each. And the last one is the most haunting, growling, fearful, awesome, mysterious, melancholic Adon Olam of Ernest Bloch, which finishes the Bloch Sacred Service. So, the Adon Olam by Sulzer, of course, he was the father of the modern cantorate. He was incredible, beautiful baritone, high baritone, and Schubert was his friend. Schubert wrote Psalm 92, actually, which is published in one of the books, and he made some of his song cycles to have Sulzer sing for Franz Josef, for the Kaiser. Much more to say, he was called the Austrian capital chief cantor of 1826. The chief cantor of Vienna is not like chief cantor of Holy Blossom, but it is like Israel Alter, the chief cantor, a state appointment position in Germany in the good old days. I made a note here that he was 22 when he got this position. I made a notice here that I was 22 when I was receiving the first position at the Frank Lloyd Wright Synagogue in Philadelphia. I just came as a greenhorn. I didn't have a suit in those times. Like Ben Gurion, I used to work. Okay, so here is an example of the Sulzer Adon Olam. I still have a few times. This is for a baritone to sing, and of course with the hi-hats, and in Vienna, that was incredible. The next one is a very short segment of Adon Olam by Max Helfman. Again, Max Helfman, there's a whole history about Max Helfman. Was introduced to me in Philadelphia when I was in Germantown Jewish Center by my former organist, whose music is our high holiday music here by a great amount. And again, some beautiful melodies that you recognize. The most familiar one, of course, is Rabbi Splensky's favorite, Shema Koleinu. That's by Helfman. Okay? Also Tavo Lefanecha, and also Hashkivenu, and on and on and on and on. It's a triumphant melody. Again, it's a beautiful. We used to finish the late Friday night services in Philadelphia. We used to have 400 or 500 people in the 60s and the 70s, just like we had it here when I came in 1979. We had incredible Friday night, the culture of better. Anyway, listen to this Adon Olam. I'm jumping. By the way, Nadia, I couldn't have done it without Nadia. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, Beterem Kol, Yitzir Nivra. Ve'acharei tichloch hakol, levado yimloch nora, ve'hu haya, ve'hu hove, ve'hu yeh, betiv harab. Eli Reshi, Eli Chachit, Velo HaHosh, Ve'Hamid. continues for another 5 minutes. The last piece at this point is really the most haunting and incredible piece, which I was privileged to sing with organ and piano and several symphony orchestras. The last one was in Sofia, celebrating the Bulgarian people who saved between 48 and 60,000 Jews, and we celebrated. Hope and I were there with a 200-voice choir and the Sofia Symphony. Ernest Bloch, the most profound, intellectually sophisticated rendition, flows of the music, the creator of the universe, its mysterious nature, the calm mood, stable as the Spirit of the Lord hovers over the earth before anything has been created. Adonai li v'lo ira. The Lord is with me and I shall not fear. The music vanishes into an abyss of nothingness. A lot to talk about Ernest Bloch. By the way, he was born in Switzerland, but he went back for a whole year to learn and to study Jewish music. Many of his works, by the title, indicate that he was very Jewish in his spirit. And of course, the Sacred Service was created and commissioned in 1933 by the Temple Emmanuel in San Francisco. It is only, as much as music Jewish we have, it is the only piece of music that went from the synagogue and liturgy into the concert stage. My dream is to be able to sing it once with the Toronto Symphony, but it's a baritone role, so it's not a tenor role. So I'm reluctant to do justice to it. However, this is, and the temple singers going, listen to it, it's in unison, but it's absolutely incredible. Continues in this abyss of darkness and with incredible heights. But the key changes, and I stopped here to just show you how the piece ends up. And right after this Adon Olam comes a very, very haunting Yevarechecha Adonai V'Yishmerecha, the priestly benediction. It is the most glorious piece of music ever written. Adonai li v'lo ira. Adonai li. 1, 2, 3. In conclusion, it is remarkable to consider how a single text has inspired such vast and diverse repertoire of musical setting, all of which reflects an extraordinary range of musical inventiveness, creativity, and interpretation. And I thank you for listening. And we continue with the service now.